Pedrosa, and she will be talking about challenges in the self and co-regulation of learning in distance education. Daniela, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. Hello, everyone. I am Daniela Pedrosa, researcher of University of Aberta from Portugal. My interests are self-regulated and co-regulated learning technologies, immersive learning, and others. Some problems with my presentation, but I go.
Daniela, can you hear us?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Something is wrong with my presentation. The slide.
I had to click. More people when we have this problem. I had to click on refresh. If you go on your screens to the top right, near the zoom, you have a refresh icon. I clicked it and it worked for me.
Okay, I clicked, but okay, it's okay now.
Okay, perfect.
So,
let's continue.
Okay. So, what is the problem we study? Well, is the high academic failure rates in computer programming, in particular into transition from initial to advanced stage in programming. In online higher education, the challenges are great in students' autonomy because requires great skills for self and co-regulated learning. So, what do we propose? We propose the SimProgramming approach. The goal is developing these skills and adapting this approach to a learning context. What is our context study? This took place in second semester and second year course of the Informatics Engineering at Universidade Aberta from Portugal. This occurs in online and asynchronous format in platform model. What is the methodology that we adopted? We adopted the quality methodology for describe the dynamics and outcomes of student participation and tasks development. What do we discover? Well, we identified some pedagogical and technical challenges and the needs to change in the next interaction. What is our next steps? Okay, we go improve the pedagogical strategies to development the self and co-regulated learning strategies, create and clarify the task instructions, create support tools to provide adequate teacher and for students awareness, analyze of these interactions using BPM and modeling, and also we go include other elements of immersion. So, do you want to know more? So let's go share your questions and ideas.
Okay, thank you, Daniela. Round of applause. Questions from the audience? Okay, I have a question. Can you please elaborate a bit on how you can use immersive technologies to improve the self and co-regulation of learning?
Okay, we try adapted the SimProgramming approach. One conceptual foundation from this approach is Disney-like environment. This is a simulation of a company when the students have functions and the teacher is a CEO, and this is our approach. In the next steps, we in the iterations, these are our improvements. We go to introduce narrative digitals and create social activities to make these interactions. We can go introduce it with more agenda and other talks for improving immersion. In this moment, in this our work, in this moment, is this a challenge we need improve.
Okay, we have questions from the audience. One is, what immediate recommendation would you make as a result of your research?
Okay, with some recommendations with this with our students. For example, improve the teaching and learning materials. What is it? Is the material learning is necessary to become clearer for students and with goals specific for the learning. Also, it's necessary to create activities for more reflexive explore by students. What is explore their awareness for the learning progress, for the precision or their difficulties, and what they make with these difficulties. What is the question by teacher and others colleagues. And also is important to help the students improve the self and co-regulated learning. What is it? Is the strategies the learning? They can regulate their learning. Management time, management of their resources, emotional management, and others. It's very important for these students in the distance learning, because these students are typically in this university workers. So the time, the responsibilities with family is more complex for their process, the teaching and learning. And so it's very important we make attention and help the students in their process and develop these skills. Other recommendations is create tools for a teacher, obtain more precision about the class dynamics. For example, what is occurring in the tasks, the students in delivering in time, in the deadline, their tasks or not? What is the students need the feedback and so for students is very important. Also these tools for awareness their progress learning.
Okay, thank you. One more question. You've already touched on this a little bit, but would you care to elaborate a bit more on how do you actually define self-regulation and co-regulation in relation to your research?
Okay, the self-regulation is when I make my regulation of my learning. What is organizing, planning, defining my goals, learning, defining my environment for study, when I difficulties ask for help, and else. The co-regulation learning is the same, but with others. For example, I want to organize my work with colleagues, but it's more complex. It's more what we regulate these emotions, these decisions, how we make our work collectively.
Okay, thank you very much. Any more questions from the audience? Okay, I have one question for you. You mentioned something about digital narratives and 3D visual environments as ways to foster immersion in distance learning. Could you elaborate with an example on how you envision teaching a really abstract concept such as programming using a narrative-based interaction?
Okay, in this moment, we are trying the narrative digitals. In moment is mere we create personages and the story with we conduce the students to make the tasks simulate any situation. The next step is use the 3D environments for this, create personages in 3D virtual worlds. I clear question or you or no?
Yes, I can understand the plan for the future work. My question was more in the direction of how do you envision teaching programming? Because based on my understanding, this is what this work is focused on. At least that's your target audience. Students of computer science who want to learn programming and are moving from novice programmers to expert programmers. So the question is, how can you teach such a concept through a narrative-based game? Or do you have any ideas? Do you have any vision for such a design?
Okay, we try in this moment incorporating these narratives the context the learning and the instructions for the students. Basically, we try make this. But Professor Leonel is complete this question relative concepts of programming. Can be explained?
Yeah, yes, but it would help if you would express what specific aspects would be more interesting for you, because this is intermediate programming, not introductory. So could you clarify what aspects would be more interesting?
Yes, sure. I was thinking about like teaching the concept of, let's say, object-oriented programming through a narrative-based interaction. Like, do you have any vision or any ideas on how would you translate this into, let's say, an interactive environment or a narrative-based interaction?
Well, on how to do it, yes, because our approach, our approach basically is to provide a purpose for what you do. So the narrative there is to engage you. Let's give you an example. What we do here in our situations, a bit beyond that, it's already when we are learning model view controller architectures and implementing events and implementing exceptions and stuff. So what we do is tell them something like, welcome, you are now trainees at this new company, and we have a policy that you should present, that you should analyze these APIs and create an example of how we could use them for our products. So we start by doing this narrative, and you have characters, and so one character will be like sort of an Harry Potter type, like trying to do things out of goodwill and in a bit of a rush and some ability, but not very well thought out. Another character will be like a sidekick saying, wait a second, we can just do it. Like, let's say the Harry character could say, well, if we need to do a class, that's easy. Let's just put all our variables inside a class, and that's it. And the next character say, oh, yay, that will solve it for sure. And then we can create, and then we can also put all our functions as methods. So, and then a character which is a bit like the more reflective type, which would go something like, wait a second, if we put everything inside the same class, what are we organizing after all? Let's see what kind of stuff we can put apart. Here's what I did for my project. And finally, we have a fourth character who's like the support for teamwork, the encouragement for discussion, saying, if we compare what you did with what he did and she did, perhaps you can get some insights on how to proceed. So we structure this dialogue as if we are among peers, and provide the students a purpose for the kind of reflection they have to do. We have not done it for the introductory programming, or for, like, say, the second step, which is be object-oriented. We are doing it when we want students to start organizing their code in a more complex manner. But I do think it should be feasible to use the same approach. So I think, I hope I have clarified it a bit.
Yes, absolutely. That all sounds really, really interesting. So do you think this form of interaction, or let's say game-based learning, narrative-based learning, would it also improve self-regulation?
Well, for that, we have early results only, and they do seem, we are now embarking on like a couple of months long data analysis process, because the second edition of the course has just finished. And it's a huge amount of data, but early anecdotal evidence, which is what we get from memory before doing the actual analysis, seems to point it that way. I think Daniela was quite excited with a few examples. Daniela, you are really the master of self-regulation pieces of evidence. So what kind of pieces of evidence would you like to showcase for stuff that we already found?
In the first, or in
this one? No, we are amongst colleagues. So for the current, not for the paper, but that was last year, but for the current approach, where we used this narrative approach intensely, what were the kind of evidences for increasing self-reflection that we clearly came across?
Okay, we constantly in the topics we make some challenge questions. Okay, in the weekly they are reflexive, but they are also some questions for make reflection about what they learning, and awareness more specific on some with this process, the self-regulation. In this quintily approach, we know observed co-regulated learning, because we know of teams. But it's interesting to observe that self-regulated learning are improved with digital narratives and with these reflections.
Okay, thank you very much. This is really, really interesting and exciting work, especially in light of the current pandemic, focusing on distance learning and how we can improve learners' experiences. So there's a question actually for the first talk from Chen, if you don't mind answering this question. So the question is, did you notice whether age affected your results? Because according to the person who's asking the question, they found anecdotal evidence that children grasp AR better than VR and adults vice versa.
I think because in my subject, my experience, there is no VR things, but I think in terms of the grasp AR and whether the age affects the result, I feel it may affect the result, but for now, I cannot say for sure, because basically all our students, they are, I mean, the subject in the experiment, they were college students, undergraduate students. So I think we don't have too much variance in terms of the age. So probably I couldn't give you a answer here regarding this, but I do believe it will probably affect it, but probably something more toward the experience. Actually, we have another experiment, and what we found was the user's experience in gaming. I mean, whether they play much 3D games or not, it kind of correlated to their control in the AR environment. Does it make sense? So what I'm guessing is probably because they play a lot of 3D games on the mobile phone or something like that. So somehow when they play this VR AR thing on mobile, they kind of they were probably more used to use it. So this is probably one assumption that age may kind of correlate to the result, because if they are children, they probably get more familiar with the AR thing. But I think there's another research about this interaction. I will probably double check it, and if I can find it, I can share with you later. But as for our study, I cannot say for sure. Yeah.
Okay. And I can imagine your target audience were university students, so more or less they all fell within the same age range.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Any more questions for speakers? Okay, speakers, do you have any final words that you want to say? Anything that you want to elaborate a bit more on?
I think so. We have this page about our project. So if you are interested in I want to know more detail, maybe you can check it out. I think I have this link, QR code on my slide, so you can just scan it to find it. Okay, so this is
put the link in the chat, please.
In the chat. Okay. Give me a second. I need to find where it is.
Yes. Also, it would be nice if both speakers could share their contact information in the chat in case someone from the audience would like to get in touch with them and ask further questions. Great. With that said, please join me in thanking the presenters for wonderful talks. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thanks.
Thank you, guys. Wonderful job. Really great presentations. Very interesting work.
Thank you. Thank you for your help. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Daniela.
Thank you.